Imagine this. The Starlight Room in Seattle, Washington glitters under crystal chandeliers, the Puget Sound shimmering beyond floor-to-ceiling windows. The air hums with clinking glasses, soft laughter, and the weight of a perfect evening. It's my brother Ethan's engagement party, and I, Claire Bennett, stand quietly by the bar dressed in a sleek black gown that no one in my family notices. They're too busy toasting Ethan, the golden child, the neurosurgeon who's never faltered. My parents, Dr. Thomas and Elizabeth Bennett, beam with pride, their faces glowing as they raise glasses to Ethan and his fiancée, Dr. Natalie Harper. I'm just Claire, the daughter who wastes her time with computers, the one they pity for scraping by in some low-level tech job. Or so they think. Then it happens. Natalie, elegant in her emerald dress, turns to me mid-conversation, her eyes narrowing like she's solving a puzzle. "Wait, Claire Bennett?" she says, her voice cutting through the room's chatter. "You're not the Claire Bennett, are you?" The CEO of HealthSync Solutions. The room freezes. My mother's wineglass hovers midair. My father's smile falters. Ethan's jaw tightens, his laugh half-formed. Natalie presses on, oblivious to the bomb she's just dropped. "Your company, it's revolutionizing healthcare. Vitaltech's been negotiating to buy HealthSync for, what, $1.2 billion. The silence is deafening. Every eye turns to me. My family, who spent years dismissing my hobby, now stares as if I've sprouted wings. Ethan chuckles nervously. "Natalie, you've got the wrong person," Claire does, like, "I'd support or something." But Natalie shakes her head, her voice firm. "No, Ethan. Your sister's platform saves lives. It's why we're paying a fortune to acquire it." My mother's hand clutches her pearls. My father's face is a mask of shock. And me, I stand there, heart pounding, feeling the spotlight I've avoided for years burn into me. For a decade, I've built an empire in the shadows, letting my family believe I was a failure. Why? Because their approval always came with strings, with expectations that I'd never be enough unless I followed their path. But now the truth is out. $1.2 billion. The number hangs in the air like a thunderclap. Will they finally see me, or will they just see the money this moment? It's not the victory I dreamed of. It's the beginning of something far more complicated. Stick with me, because this story isn't about proving them wrong. It's about proving myself. That moment in the Starlight Room, with my family's eyes boring into me, felt like standing on a cliff's edge. The truth was out. Claire Bennett wasn't the failure they'd imagined. I was the CEO of HealthSync Solutions, a company worth $1.2 billion. But to understand why that moment hit so hard, you need to know where I came from, who I was to them, and who I refused to become. I grew up in Bellevue, Washington, a polished suburb just east of Seattle, where success wasn't a goal, it was a mandate. Picture tree-lined streets, sprawling mansions, and neighbors who measured worth by Ivy League degrees and corner offices. My father, Dr. Thomas Bennett, was a cardiologist so renowned that other doctors flew across the country to consult him. My mother, Elizabeth Bennett, was a human rights lawyer whose name graced headlines for winning impossible cases. And then there was my brother Ethan, 4 years older, the perfect son, who glided into neurosurgery like he was born for it. Our home was a stage, and Ethan was the star. Me, I was the understudy nobody watched. Dinner at our house wasn't just a meal, it was a performance. My mother would lean forward, her voice sharp with expectation. "So what did everyone achieve today?" Ethan always had an answer ready, top score on his AP bio exam. a summer internship at a prestigious hospital, a glowing letter from his mentor. When my turn came, my words felt small, like they didn't belong. At 14, I built an app that streamlined our school's library system, cutting checkout times in half. The librarian called it genius. I was bursting with pride when I shared it at dinner. "That's cute, Claire." My mother said, her smile, tight, the kind that never reached her eyes. "But shouldn't you be prepping for your debate? Tournament colleges want commitment, not hobbies." My father nodded already, turning to Ethan. "Tell us more about your research project, son." The message was clear. Computers were toys. Real success happened in operating rooms or courtrooms. I'd slink to my room, my sanctuary, where I'd lose myself. In code, Python, Java, anything that let me build something mine. While Ethan's walls boasted framed awards, mine were plastered with printouts of algorithms and app designs. I'd code until midnight, my eyes burning, then drag myself to school, hiding my exhaustion. Because my parents only noticed if my grades slipped. You could be like Ethan if you just tried harder. My father once said, his voice heavy with disappointment. Tried harder. I was pouring my soul into something they couldn't see. At 16, I entered a national coding competition with an app that tracked community health trends, think early warning systems for flu outbreaks. I spent months perfecting it, testing it with local clinics. The finals were in San Francisco, a big deal for a kid like me. But they fell on the same weekend as Ethan's acceptance ceremony for Johns Hopkins. "We're so sorry, Claire," my mother said, not sounding sorry at all. "Your brother's worked his whole life for this. You understand, right?" I went alone. No family in the audience, just me and my laptop. I won first place. The judges, Silicon Valley engineers, said I had vision beyond my years. I came home with a trophy, my heart soaring, only to find our house packed with relatives toasting Ethan. My father glanced at my award. "That's nice, dear," he said, then raised his glass to my brother. That night, I made a vow I'd build something so big they couldn't ignore it. I'd do it my way without their applause. My parents had a script for my life, Ivy League law school, a respectable career. But I wasn't their puppet. Senior year, they pushed me toward Harvard or Yale pre-law tracks. I applied to the University of Washington instead for computer science and got a full-ride scholarship. "You're throwing away your potential," my father said, his voice like a gavel. "Computer science?" My mother scoffed. "That's not a field for a Bennett." Ethan, home from med school, tried to play peacemaker in his smug way. "Let her tinker with her gadgets, Mom. She'll come around to law school." I left for college with their disappointment like a weight on my chest, but also a spark of freedom. For the first time, I could chase what I loved without their judgment. Bellevue had taught me one thing: success wasn't enough. You had to succeed their way. I was done with that. I'd prove them wrong, not by shouting, but by building. My family saw me as a shadow, always trailing Ethan's light. But shadows can grow, stretch, and overtake. And I was just getting started. Leaving Bellevue behind felt like shedding a skin that never fit. The University of Washington was my new world, a place where I wasn't the disappointing daughter or Ethan's shadow. I was Claire Bennett, computer science major, ready to carve my own path. Seattle's gray skies and buzzing tech scene were electric, like the hum of a server room. For the first time, I was surrounded by people who spoke my language, code ideas, possibilities. No one cared that my father saved hearts or my mother won cases. They cared about what I could build. My first year was a blur of late-night coding sessions and cheap coffee. I thrived in classes like data structures and algorithms, where my professors noticed my knack for turning complex problems into elegant solutions. "You've got a rare spark, Claire," my advisor, Dr. Patel, told me after I aced a project on machine learning. That kind of praise, earned not inherited, felt like oxygen, but home was never far away. Summer breaks meant returning to Bellevue, where nothing had changed. At family dinners, relatives fawned over Ethan's residency at Seattle General. "And you, Claire," an aunt would ask her, tone dripping with pity. Still playing with computers, I'd mumble something vague about studying tech, letting them assume I was aiming for some entry-level IT job. It was easier than explaining. They wouldn't get it anyway. Sophomore year, I met Maya Torres in an advanced programming class. She was a firecracker, brilliant, fearless, with a laugh that could light up a room. We bonded over a brutal group project building a database system for a local nonprofit. While others struggled, we finished early, adding features like real-time analytics just for fun. Over coffee at the campus cafe, we'd talk until closing time, dreaming about tech's potential. One night, Maya slammed her laptop shut, her eyes blazing. "The healthcare system's a mess, Claire." My dad waited 6 months for a diagnosis because doctors couldn't share records properly. "We could fix that." Her words hit me like a spark to dry grass. I'd seen my father's world-sterile operating rooms, endless paperwork. What if tech could bridge those gaps? That night, we sketched our first idea on a napkin, a platform to connect doctors, patients, and hospitals seamlessly. HealthSync Solutions was born. We were naive, though. Junior year, we launched our first startup, a bare-bones app called MediLink. We poured everything into it, sleepless nights, every cent from our part-time gigs designing websites. We even pitched at a local startup fair, hearts racing, as we demoed to a room of investors. One, a gruff venture capitalist named Greg Hammond, seemed interested, promising, he said, handing us his card. We were over the moon. But 6 months later, MediLink crashed and burned. Our code was solid, but we didn't know how to scale or manage a team. Greg pulled his funding, calling us kids with big dreams but no execution. Maya and I sat in her dorm staring at our dead app. "We're done," I whispered, my voice hollow. Maya grabbed my hand. "No, Claire, we failed." "That's not the same thing. Failure's just data. We learn, we rebuild." Her words pulled me back from the edge. We weren't quitting, we were iterating. That failure taught me resilience, the kind you can't learn in a classroom. We scrapped MediLink, but kept its core idea. By senior year, we had a new prototype, HealthSync Solutions, a cloud-based platform with encrypted patient portals and API integrations that let hospitals share data instantly. We worked from Maya's parents' garage in Tacoma, a cramped space filled with second-hand monitors and empty ramen cups. Her mom brought us tacos and asked about our progress, her curiosity a stark contrast to my family's indifference. "You're changing the world, mija," she'd say to Maya, then smile at me. "You too, Claire?" I'd nod, swallowing the lump in my throat. Why couldn't my parents see that? We entered HealthSync in a national entrepreneurship competition. Pouring our hearts into the pitch, the finals were in Silicon Valley, a glittering stage of glass towers and venture capitalists. Maya and I stood in front of 200 people, demoing how HealthSync cut medication errors by syncing records in real time. Imagine a world where no patient falls through the cracks. I said, my voice steady despite my nerves. We won first place plus $50,000 in seed funding. The judges, tech execs from Google and Amazon, called our platform game-changing. Back in Seattle, we used the money to file patents and incorporate HealthSync. Dr. Sarah Kim, a hospital administrator we met at the competition, became our first client. This could save lives, she told us after a demo. How fast can you roll it out? My heart raced. This was real. Graduation came, and while my classmates celebrated, Maya and I moved into a tiny apartment in Seattle's Capitol Hill. We lived on coffee and ambition coding until our eyes burned. HealthSync grew first one hospital, then 5, then a regional network. A $10 million investment from Pacific Ventures let us hire our first employee, a genius developer named Leo. By age 25, HealthSync was in 50 hospitals, reducing communication errors by 55% and boosting patient satisfaction. Medical journals started citing us. HealthSync is redefining healthcare delivery, one article read. I kept a copy in my desk, not for vanity, but as a reminder I was building something that mattered. But my family, they still saw the old Claire. At Thanksgiving, my father cornered me by the pumpkin pie. Claire Ethan can get you a job at his hospital. Something stable like data entry. You can't keep chasing these tech fantasies. I forced a smile. I'm good, Dad, really. He laughed, not unkindly, but like I was a child with a pipe dream. Be practical, Claire. Get a real job. My mother was worse. At Christmas, she pulled me aside. Ethan's friend, a lawyer, is single. I could set you up. You're not getting younger, and tech isn't exactly secure. I wanted to scream I'm running, a company that saves lives, but I didn't. Their dismissal hurt too much, like a bruise that never healed. So I stopped sharing. I drove my beat-up college car to family events, wore plain clothes, let them believe I was struggling. It wasn't about hiding, it was about protecting something precious from people who'd never valued it. By 28, HealthSync had 80 employees and a $200 million valuation. I bought a condo overlooking Elliott Bay, minimalist but mine, with views of ferries gliding across the water. Industry blogs called me the quiet genius behind HealthSync, but I stayed out of the spotlight using just Claire in press releases, no photos. Maya teased me. You're like a tech ninja. Don't you want some credit? I shrugged. Not yet, not from strangers. The truth was, I wanted my family to see me first, but only when I was ready. When the stakes were so high, they couldn't dismiss it as luck. Then came the email that changed everything. Cascade Health, a network of 40 hospitals across the Pacific Northwest, wanted HealthSync system-wide. Maya and I stared at the screen, speechless. This is it, she whispered. We're not just players anymore. We're leaders. The deal tripled our revenue overnight. Other hospitals called, desperate to sign on. At 30, I was a multimillionaire, on paper, paying off my student loans with a single click. But at family gatherings, I was still Claire, the one who didn't quite make it. The gap between my two lives, one a rising star, the other a ghost, grew wider every day. Vitaltech's first acquisition offer came a year later, $500 million. Maya and I met their execs in a sleek San Francisco boardroom. Take the money, they urged. Join our team. We walked out silent, then burst out laughing on the street. They don't get it, Maya said. HealthSync isn't just a product, it's our soul. We turned them down. HealthSync was about saving lives, not cashing out. But the offers kept coming, each bigger than the last. By 34, Vitaltech was circling again, this time with a number too big to ignore. $1.2 billion. It was surreal, like watching my life in fast forward. I'd built an empire in silence, but the world was about to notice. And so was my family. The starlight room glowed with a warmth that felt almost mocking its chandeliers, casting golden light across blue velvet banquettes and gleaming silverware. Outside, the Puget Sound shimmered under Seattle's night sky. a quiet contrast to the storm brewing inside. It was Ethan's engagement party, a night meant to celebrate my brother and his fiancée, Dr. Natalie Harper. I, Claire Bennett, stood near the bar, my black dress understated, but elegant, blending into the crowd of 40 guests, family colleagues, and Bellevue's elite. My parents, Dr. Thomas and Elizabeth Bennett, held court at the center table. Their smiles polished their pride in Ethan radiating like a spotlight. I was used to this, the familiar ache of being invisible in their world. But tonight that invisibility was about to shatter. Dinner began with a clink of champagne flutes and toasts that felt like a script I'd heard 1,000 times. My father stood, his voice booming with emotion. To Ethan, who's made us proud every single day, and to Natalie, a brilliant woman who matches his excellence. Here's to a future of greatness, glasses rose, and my mother followed her toast, a carefully crafted ode to Ethan's journey from his first science fair trophy to his promotion to chief neurosurgeon at Seattle General. And now, she said, her eyes glistening, he's found a partner who shares his dedication to excellence. I sipped my water, my smile practiced hiding the sting. No one toasted me. No one ever did. The first course arrived, seared scallops artfully plated, and conversation swirled around me. My cousin Laura, seated beside me, leaned in with that pitying tone I knew too well. So Claire, still doing that computer thing? Is there room to grow in that? Before I could answer, my uncle chimed in from across the table, his voice loud enough to draw eyes. Claire, Ethan mentioned you might have a shot at a job with Microsoft, entry level, but it's a start, right? I forced a nod, my voice calm. I'm happy where I am, actually. My father overheard, his brow furrowing. Claire, there's no shame in taking help to get your foot in the door. We just want you to succeed. Succeed. As if I hadn't spent a decade building HealthSync Solutions, a company that saved lives while they assumed I fixed printers for a living. Then it happened. Natalie, seated across from me, set down her fork with a soft clink, her eyes locking onto mine. She was stunning in her emerald dress, her presence commanding yet warm. But now her expression shifted, like she'd just solved a riddle. Wait a second, Claire Bennett, she said, her voice rising just enough to hush the table. You're not the Claire Bennett, are you? My heart stopped. I knew that tone, that look. She wasn't asking about my job. She was piecing together something bigger. My mother tilted her head, confused. Natalie, dear, what do you mean? Natalie's eyes widened, a mix of shock and excitement. Claire Bennett, CEO of HealthSync Solutions, the healthcare platform that's changing how hospitals operate. The room went silent, the kind of silence that presses against your chest. My father's wineglass froze halfway to his lips. My mother's hand fluttered to her pearl necklace, her smile faltering. Ethan laughed, a nervous edge to it. Natalie, you've got the wrong person. Claire does, I don't know, IT support or something. But Natalie shook her head, her gaze never leaving me. No, Ethan. Your sister's company is why Vitaltech is offering $1.2 billion to acquire it. We've been negotiating for weeks. $1.2 billion. The number landed like a thunderbolt splintering the carefully constructed narrative my family had built around me. Every head turned. My cousin Laura's mouth hung open. My uncle choked on his scallop. Ethan's face drained of color, his laugh dying in his throat. My mother's voice was a whisper. Claire, is this true? I met her gaze, then my father's, then Ethan's. For years, I'd hidden my success, letting them believe I was less so I could protect what I'd built. But the truth was out, and there was no going back. I nodded, my voice steady. Yes, Maya Torres and I founded HealthSync 10 years ago. We're in over 300 hospitals saving lives every day. Natalie, unaware of the earthquake she'd triggered, pressed on, her enthusiasm spilling over. Your platform's incredible, Claire at Portland General. It cut medication errors by 62% in a single year. The interface. It's light years ahead of anything we've tried to build. That's why Vitaltech's paying a premium to bring you on board. She stopped, suddenly aware of the stunned faces around her. I had no idea you were Ethan's sister. Your profile just says Claire, no photo. Our teams handled the talks. My father's voice broke the silence, faint, almost pleading. Why didn't you tell us, Claire? My mother's eyes glistened, not with pride, but with confusion. We're your family. How could you keep this from us? Ethan said nothing, his jaw tight, his hands gripping the table. I could see it in his eyes, the shock, yes, but also something deeper. Envy. His little sister, the one he'd pitied, had just eclipsed him in a way he couldn't fathom. I took a breath, my voice calm but firm. I tried to tell you. Years ago, when I built my first app, won my first competition, you called it a hobby. You told me to get a real job to be more like Ethan. After a while, it was easier to stop trying. My mother flinched like I'd struck her. My father's face hardened, but he didn't argue. The truth hung heavy, undeniable. Natalie, sensing the tension, tried to lighten the mood. Well, Claire, you're a legend in the industry. They call you the quiet genius. Now I see why you stayed under the radar. The rest of the dinner was a blur. Relatives who'd ignored me an hour ago now peppered me with questions. How much is HealthSync worth again? My uncle asked, his tone greedy. My mother, recovering, claimed she'd always known I had a knack for computers. My father muttered something about telling colleagues about his tech entrepreneur daughter. Their sudden interest felt hollow, like they were chasing the billion-dollar headline, not me. Ethan stayed quiet, his silence louder than any words. I answered politely, my composure a shield. I'd spent years craving their approval, but now standing in the wreckage of their assumptions, I realized I didn't need it. I never had. As the night wound down, Natalie pulled me aside, her voice soft. I'm sorry if I put you on the spot. I was just floored to meet you like this. I smiled, genuine this time. Don't be. It was time. She nodded, her eyes warm. For what it's worth, you're an inspiration. Vitaltech's lucky to have you. I thanked her, but my mind was elsewhere. The spotlight was on me, but it wasn't the triumph I'd imagined. It was raw, messy, real. As I left the starlight room, the city lights reflecting off the sound, I felt a strange calm. The secret I'd carried for a decade was gone. Whatever came next, awkward family talks, Ethan's envy, or my parents' attempts to rewrite history, I'd face it on my terms. For the first time, I wasn't afraid. The night at the starlight room left a crack in my world, one I couldn't unsee. The truth about HealthSync Solutions. My billion-dollar empire was out, and my family's stunned faces were burned into my mind. Claire Bennett wasn't the failure they'd imagined. I was a force, a name whispered in tech circles as the quiet genius. But the victory I'd dreamed of didn't feel like a win. It felt like a reckoning. As I drove back to my condo overlooking Elliott Bay, Seattle's lights flickering like stars, my phone buzzed relentlessly. Texts from cousins I hadn't heard from in years. A voicemail from my mother, her voice tight, Claire, we need to talk. Brunch tomorrow. The Fairmont 11 sharp. Even Ethan, silent through most of dinner, sent a single line. Why didn't you tell me I didn't reply? Not yet. I needed to breathe, to process the weight of a secret I'd carried for a decade, now exposed. Brunch at the Fairmont Hotel was a study in contrast's elegant white tablecloths, the clink of fine china, and the raw tension between my parents and me. My father, Dr. Thomas Bennett, sat rigid in his tailored suit, his cardiologist's precision mirrored in his measured words. My mother, Elizabeth, wore her lawyer's poise like armor, but her eyes betrayed uncertainty. I arrived in a simple navy blazer, my presence calm but unyielding. No more hiding, no more playing small. Claire, my mother, began, her voice softer than usual. We've been reading about HealthSync. The awards, the funding, the billion-dollar deal. Why would you keep this from us? We're your family. I set down my coffee, meeting her gaze. I tried to share, Mom. When I was 16, I won a national coding competition. You called it a nice hobby. When I got into UW for computer science, Dad said I was throwing away my potential. You wanted me to be Ethan, or at least marry someone like him. Every time I reached out, you pushed me back. My father's jaw tightened. That's not fair, Claire. We always knew you had talent. We just wanted you to aim higher, to choose a path with stability. I shook my head, my voice steady. You mean a path you understood. I didn't need stability. I needed you to listen. My mother's eyes glistened, but she didn't cry. We were worried, Claire. Tech seemed so uncertain. We thought you were struggling, that you needed help. I leaned forward, my words deliberate. You never asked what I was doing. Not really. You assumed I was failing because I didn't fit your mold. Last month you tried to set me up with a pity job at Ethan's hospital. Do you know how that felt? My father shifted, uncomfortable. We were trying to help, he said, but his voice lacked conviction. For the first time, I saw cracks in their certainty, the faintest hint of regret. We parted with a promise to talk again, not a resolution, but a start. Healing, I realized, wasn't a single conversation, it was a process. Ethan was different. 2 nights later, he showed up at my condo, unannounced, a bottle of Cabernet in hand, and an awkward smile on his face. Figured we might need this, he said, stepping into my sleek penthouse, its floor-to-ceiling windows framing Seattle's skyline. He whistled, taking it in. Damn, Claire, this place, it's not what I pictured. I raised an eyebrow, pouring the wine. What did you picture? Me in a basement fixing laptops? He winced, sitting on my leather sofa. Yeah, I've been an ASS, haven't I? His bluntness caught me off guard, and I laughed, the sound easing the tension. Pretty much, I said, handing him a glass. He swirled his wine, his eyes distant. I bought into it, Claire, the whole story about you being lost, the struggling sister. It was easier that way, made me feel like the successful one, the one Mom and Dad bragged about. I never asked what you were really doing. I didn't want to know. His honesty hit me hard, like a truth I'd always sensed but never named. Ethan, the golden child, had been trapped too, his worth tied to being the best, the only star. I sat across from him, my voice soft but firm. You didn't have to be the only one who shined, Ethan. There was room for both of us. He nodded, his face tight with something like shame. I'm sorry, Claire. And I'm proud of you. HealthSync. Natalie can't stop talking about it. Says you're changing healthcare more than most doctors ever will. I smiled, surprised by how much his words meant. Thanks. But you're doing good work too. We're just on different paths. We talked for hours. Really talked, peeling back. Years of distance. He asked about HealthSync's tech patient portals, data encryption, and I asked about his surgeries, his patients. For the first time, we weren't competing. We were siblings. Natalie became an unexpected bridge. As VitalTech's director of strategy, she was neck-deep in the HealthSync acquisition. but she was also my future sister-in-law, navigating the Bennett family's complicated dynamics. Over coffee at a Capitol Hill cafe, she leaned forward, her eyes warm. "Your parents are trying, Claire. They're just learning a new language." Success for them was always degrees, titles. "You're rewriting the dictionary." I laughed, stirring my latte. "You speak it pretty fluently." She grinned. "Took me years to unlearn my own family's rules. I can translate for you if you let me." She did in small ways. At a family dinner, when my mother started quizzing me about HealthSync stability, Natalie jumped in, explaining how our platform reduced hospital costs by 30% while improving patient outcomes. My father, usually skeptical, listened, even asked a follow-up question. "So it's like a digital operating system for doctors?" I nodded, hiding my surprise. "Exactly." Natalie's presence softened the edges, but I set boundaries too. When my mother suggested I dress more professionally for a family event, I cut her off. "Mom, I'm a CEO, not a pageant contestant. Let's talk about something else." She blinked but nodded. Progress, not perfection. The acquisition closed a month later, a whirlwind of signatures and headlines. HealthSync Solutions was now part of VitalTech, valued at $1.2 billion. Maya and I stayed on as leaders, steering our vision forward. The press release included my full name and a photo of first. The quiet genius was stepping into the light. My parents called their voices cautious but proud. "We saw the news, Claire," my father said. "It's remarkable." My mother added, "We'd love to visit your office sometime." I agreed, but on my terms, no more bending to fit their frame. Ethan and I grew closer, trading ideas over beers at my place. "You ever think about consulting for hospitals?" he asked one night. "Your tech brain and my surgical one, we'd be unstoppable." I laughed, but the idea stuck. Natalie, meanwhile, became a friend, not just a colleague. "You're stuck with me now," she teased at a wedding planning session, her arm around mine. Family and business double trouble. I grinned. Bring it on. My family wasn't perfect. There were still awkward moments, my father's unsolicited business advice, my mother's questions about my diet despite my CEO schedule. But they were trying, and I was learning to meet them halfway, to forgive without forgetting. The real change was in me. I'd spent years proving myself to them, but now I knew my worth didn't depend on their applause. It never had. As I stood in my office watching ferries cross the Sound, I felt a peace I'd fought for, a peace no one could take. The road ahead wasn't smooth, but it was mine, and I was ready for it. The view from my office window feels different now. Seattle's skyline stretches before me, the Space Needle piercing the clouds, while ferries glide across Elliott Bay like quiet promises. HealthSync Solutions. The dream Maya and I poured our souls into is no longer just ours. It's part of VitalTech, a $1.2 billion legacy that's changing lives in 500 hospitals across 3 continents. I'm Claire Bennett, no longer the shadow in my family's story, but a woman who built her own. The headlines call me a trailblazer, the quiet genius who rewrote healthcare. But the real victory, it's not the money or the titles, it's the peace I've found, the unshakable knowledge of my worth, earned through years of proving myself to myself. Life has a new rhythm. I lead VitalTech's innovation division, pushing HealthSync to new frontiers. AI-driven diagnostics, real-time patient monitoring. Maya's spearheading our global expansion, her emails from London or Tokyo buzzing with excitement. "We're saving more lives, Claire," she writes, and I can hear her grin through the screen. I've traded my silent hustle for a louder mission, mentoring young women in tech. Every month I host workshops for high school girls, their eyes wide as they code their first apps. One girl, 16, her braids swinging as she types, told me, "My parents say tech's not for girls. They want me to be a nurse." I knelt beside her, my voice firm. "What do you want?" She hesitated, then whispered, "To build something big." I handed her a list of free coding resources. Then build it. Find people who see your spark, even if they're not your family. Keep the door open for them to catch up. Her nod, fierce and determined, felt like looking in a mirror. My family's changed too. Monthly dinners with Ethan and Natalie are a ritual now. Our laughter filling my condo as we trade stories over wine and takeout. Ethan's latest dessert attempt, a lopsided chocolate tart, sits beside bakery cupcakes just in case. I'm getting better, he insists, and I tease. The smoke alarm begs to differ. Natalie's become my confidant, her insights cutting through the Bennett family fog. "Your parents love you," she told me once, "but they were scared you'd fail in a world they didn't understand. They're learning. My parents join us sometimes, their efforts clumsy but real." My father toured HealthSync's office last week, his questions about our platform halting but genuine. "This helps patients more than I expected," he admitted almost to himself. My mother's stopped commenting on my wardrobe, instead asking about my team, my vision. Small steps, but they matter. I've learned to validate myself, a gift no one can take. Therapy with Dr. Lynn. My steady guide has helped me dismantle old walls. "You protected yourself from their judgment," she said. "Now you're strong enough to let some of that go." I am. I've built a chosen family, Maya, Natalie, my mentees, who see me not the billionaire or the Bennett daughter, but Claire. That's enough. Here's what I want you to take away. First, believe in yourself. When doubt screams loudest, your parents, your fears. Listen to the quiet voice inside that knows your worth. Second, embrace failure. My first startup crashed, but it taught me to rebuild stronger. Failure's not the end, it's your teacher. Third, find your people. Maya was my anchor, Natalie my bridge. Surround yourself with those who lift your dreams, not crush them. Finally, forgive but set boundaries. I've forgiven my family, but I've made it clear my path is mine. Love doesn't mean letting others define you. If this story hit home, drop a comment below. Share a moment when you had to believe in yourself against the odds. Pass this video to someone who needs to hear it. Hit like, subscribe, and let's keep building our dreams. One fearless step at a time. You've got this. I know you do.